welcome back to Web Pastor TV. My name is Mike Shoesmith, and today I want to talk to you guys about love and my Uncle Ken. You know, about 20 years ago, I watched my uncle die of the extremely slow death of AIDS, and it just ravaged his body until he wasted away to nothing. And I know now, 20 years later, that if somebody would have been able to reach out to my uncle with love and express to him the importance of not allowing his body to be abused that way under the guise of love, then he would still be alive today. Now, the problem here is the homosexual community has been allowed to hijack the language and compartmentalize sexuality and the whole sexual experience. You know, when it comes to sexuality, there are only two types of people in the world: those who are having sex and those who are not. Everything else is just compartmentalizing something that doesn't need to be. And so all these diseases have been allowed to come into the world based upon this compartmentalizing of sexuality, when in fact there are only two types of people when it comes to sexuality: those having sex and those not having sex. And what you do with your body sexually is entirely your choice, with the very rare exception of rape or incest or manipulation of children. With all the cases of people having sex in the world, those instances are very rare. In the vast majority of cases, what you do with your body is your choice, ultimately. And so we have to look at this in the sense of, is it love to allow yourself to allow your body to be abused in that way? Because it really is abuse. Your body was not designed to function that way. So we look at what is love. Well, as doctors, especially in the Western world, they take what they call an oath of to do no harm, and that's good and everything. But you know, there's an oath that supersedes that, and that is an oath of love, and it's the type of love that in Latin is called primum susurrere, and primum susurrere is Latin, and it means hasten to help. And it overrides the do no harm oath. So in a sense, it's kind of like if your young child was running towards the street, chasing after a car and a ball, and a car was coming down the street, and you knew that if you didn't run out there and take action, physical action, against the tragedy that was about to unfold, then this child would be struck by this car. So you run out to the street, you grab the child by the arm, violently throwing the child out onto the grass, out of harm's way, but in doing so, you've harmed the child. You've hastened to help, but you've harmed the child physically and emotionally, perhaps. Maybe you even pulled the child's arm out of its socket trying to get it out of the way of the car, but you've done harm, but you've hastened to help, and so the greater good has been served. And so when we come out and we say, look, I know this sort of activity feels good, etc., 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 but in the end, it is going to do you more harm than good. And essentially, people say, well, why do you care? You know, this doesn't affect you. Well, in fact, it does affect me. It affects everybody. The science is out on this. The Center for Disease Control comes out with its numbers regularly. And this is the Center for Disease Control website, and this is their page on MSM. Now, MSM is just simply their terminology for they don't acknowledge really the homosexual, heterosexual, gay, straight debate. They don't really acknowledge it. Their page is just simply called MSM, Men Who Have Sex with Men, and you know, the numbers don't lie here. It says here that gay, bisexual, and other men who have sex with men represent only 2% of the U.S. population. And yet, they're the population most severely affected by HIV. And in 2009, men who had sex with men accounted for 61% of all new HIV infections. 61% of all new HIV infections. And MSM with drug use accounts for 3% additionally. And that same year, young men who had sex with men accounted for 69%, so almost 2/3 of all new HIV infections among persons aged 13 to 29, and 44% of infections among all MSM. At the end of 2009, almost 500,000 people living with HIV diagnosis in the U.S. were men having sex with men. And so the article goes on to say that in 2009, men who had sex with men accounted for 61% of all new HIV infections in the U.S. and 80% of infections among all newly infected men. These numbers are staggering. The men having sex with men is perpetrating the HIV epidemic. It just is. This is the Center for Disease Control telling us this. And it says here that they are the only societal group in which new cases of HIV are on the rise. On the rise. Every other societal group, it's in the decline. So this is love. This is love for me to come out here and tell you guys this stuff. It's not love to allow yourself to be abused physically by other men. That's not love. It wouldn't be love for me to come out here and say, yeah, it's okay. It's okay to have a parade to celebrate this, to allow marriage to celebrate this. This is nothing to celebrate. We shouldn't be celebrating this. This is not love. Real love comes and says, look, you should not be running out and you should not get in your car and drive against a brick wall. You shouldn't do that. And that's what this lifestyle is. You guys are killing each other. And out of an act of love, we're saying, you need to stop doing this. This is not worthy of a parade. And this is not worthy of marriage. You people are hurting each other. And it's time to stop. And, we even look at the lesbian community. They don't have near the cases of sexually transmitted diseases because this is web-pastor television, and so we take a decidedly biblical worldview on things, and the Bible does hold the men accountable. That's why men have such powerful harvest when they allow themselves to be trapped in this sexual prison like this. But lesbians, they're not without risk here. I mean, according to Dr. Tori Hudson, she is a naturopathic physician. She says that it's certain that lesbian groups have higher risk factors for cancer because if you've never birthed a child, you have a higher risk of breast cancer, for example, and medical studies show that risk of breast cancer is reduced by as much as 50% for women who have a child. And nearly 30% of lesbians are obese. So that leads to greater risk of cancer, and lesbians don't drink more than the general population, but they have a greater history of problems with alcohol. Lesbians are also more likely to use tobacco, according to this expert here. Now, on top of this, Dr. Hudson reports that lesbians are less likely to perform self-breast exams, get clinical breast exams, and mammograms. So, there's a stigma attached to lesbians, and so they're suffering from this lifestyle choice as well. So all we're doing is we're coming out here and we're loving you, and we're saying, look, there's a problem here. This lifestyle is not worthy of celebrating. The issue here is that you need help to get over this, because it's a known fact that homosexual men have problems with their father figures, and they need to get counseling and relief from that. But listen, your body was designed as a man to interact with women, not with other men. That's not right. It slams against the natural order of things. And we're just coming out here and we're saying, that's not love. Love is rejecting that, jettisoning the hijacking of the language, which says, well, I'm gay, therefore I do this, or I'm lesbian, therefore I do this, or whatever. Again, when it comes to sexuality, there are only two types of people in the world, those having sex and those not having sex. And what you do while you're having sex is entirely your choice. And we're saying choose love, because love will ultimately heal the problems you're having with emotions and the reasons surrounding your choice to have same-sex relations. But listen, you are in for a world of hurt if you keep this up. And this is what love does. Love speaks the truth, and that's all we're doing here. So do the right thing, and we love you, and thanks for watching.